All right, let's get to our next guest. Another great conversation coming up for you. It's been 16 years since Jennifer Lynch shook the cinematic medium with her controversial debut film, Boxing Helena. You remember Boxing Helena, right, Jerry?
Yes, I went to see it opening day with my brother. I'm not doing anything else.
Well, it's definitely a very provocative film and very challenging, and I've been really interested in watching it again. It's been so many years since I've seen it, and see how my perception of it has changed over the years. But now, after a long soul-searching hiatus, she is back with her new film Surveillance, a Kurosawa-inspired thriller starring Bill Pullman and Julia Ormond and Sherry O'Terry, and just a wonderfully diverse cast in this film. And it's wonderfully rich and frightening and provocative, of course, and actually very funny at times. It's a great ride. And our home entertainment correspondent, Aaron Diaz, I feel like he should have theme music every time we say entertainment.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like he's on location in someone's home theater.
There you go.
Doing the interview. He spoke to Jennifer about the journey from Boxing Helena to Surveillance and a whole lot more. Enjoy this, guys. It's a great conversation. Here's Jennifer Lynch.
Well, let's get started, and I guess maybe we can get some of the unpleasantness out of the way and talk real quickly about Boxing Helena, in that it's been...
Okay. All right, let's do that.
And I say that in that I honestly I don't know how your feelings about it are, and that I guess it's been 16 years since the film, and so what does that distance mean in when you look back at that film?
God, it means so many different things, Aaron. It was a long time coming that I could look at it again and have any objectivity. The whole experience was so, potent and, outrageously illuminating to me. I really, when I wrote it at age 19, I didn't think anybody was going to ever see a movie. I thought I was just writing a script. So, with all that came about in the making of and the trial that ensued and all of that insanity, I think that there was a sort of a craziness and insanity and a loss of objectivity that I've now regained. And I'm also, instead of 19, I'm 41 now. So, I've raised a daughter and, had many other life changes take place. And I think that, I'm not back on the film as being, there's no doubt in my mind that I did the very best I could, having never made a film before or written a film before. Certainly be different if I did it again today. But I'm still puzzled by the enormity and the veracity of the reactions the film got. Mm-hmm. They still sort of, and it's not a negative puzzlement, but I'm still amazed that, I'm not quite sure how I went wrong in telling the awkward fairy tale, but I did. And I don't know if it's in the promotion of the film or in the film itself that it's flawed. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if anybody's actually seen the film I made.
Well, I've seen it. In that intervening time with that experience, was that a contributing factor of you kind of not making a film since then? It's been almost a decade and a half between that film and Surveillance. Was that one of the reasons that it took so long for you to get back to filmmaking?
Well, I think that certainly that had something to do with it. I also think I, was given the gift of distance just through life experience. I did get pregnant almost a little less than a year after Boxing Helena was released, and I realized I was going to raise that child alone. She's almost 14 now. I had 3 consecutive spinal surgeries, and I got sober. So I had a whole bunch of living to do in the interim and was writing the whole time and producing short films, but it sort of occurred to me that the when you invite someone into the world, you should make them feel welcome, and that thing is not just something you do on the side. And I not only do I not believe in it, can't afford it, this whole nanny business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the rejection and ostracism that came with Boxing Helena certainly forced me to what I thought was a more normal life. But I'm also grateful to that supposedly normal life for giving me the perspective it's given me now in the work I'm doing. So, and plus I have the great kid I have and the new spine and the sobriety and all that crazy stuff. So, they all have something to do with each other, but I don't know that I had anything to do with it other than participating in it.
Well, it sounds like a lot of good actually came out of Boxing Helena.
Yeah, I don't regret a single moment of it, aside from the fact that I feel sometimes I wish that the performances that are in that film could be that as the performances they are, rather than with the onslaught of craziness that came along with it, because I think that the actors did a brilliant job, and whatever negative was said about the film or me or the trial, that, I still champion the performances 100%.
Right. Well, with regards to Surveillance, I got to ask, is it true that originally it had zombies in it, in the original script? Is this a true...
The original script actually had witches in it.
Oh, okay.
It was originally a totally different story. And, it's funny that it even be considered the same script, but that comes from the telling of how it all came about, and that is that Kent Harper, who plays Jack Bennett in the film, he and I had been producing short films together for a while, and he asked me a script of his one day that was called Tres Brujas, which in translation is Three Witches. Mm-hmm. And I didn't love the script, but what I loved was the idea of, a desolate highway. And it reminded me of the cross-country road trip I'd taken with my parents, and it reminded me of my daughter and the clarity of vision she has, and how we forget that and we ignore our kids, and how some of the scariest moments in my life have taken place in broad daylight. And that I've always wanted to make a serial killer film, but that I hadn't seen the one that would really scare me. Mm-hmm. And so I, out of that came many conversations with Kent, and from those conversations was born Surveillance.
Mm. And in regards to the cast, Ormond, Pullman, Ironside, O'Terry, and just having these actors who, I'm sure the average movie executive or producer or even audience member wouldn't think that some of these actors would be in the same film. What about the casting that excites you, that having these kind of different temperaments in the film?
It's sort of an amazing barbecue. Mm-hmm. Where you show up and you would never cast the barbecue that way, right, but you've never been to a better one in your life. And every conversation you have is a surprise and a sort of a gift. And I think that, because I'm so interested in exploring what good and bad might look like as opposed to what we think they look like, that, these people at the barbecue, so to speak, are not who we think they are. And, you think the guy in the blue jeans and the T-shirt is going to be one way, and in fact, he's the opposite, and many other things on top of that. And the same with the women and the children, and I love a surprise. So what I wanted to play with was, what do we expect from people who look a certain way? What do we expect from drug addicts and FBI agents and cops and serial killers? And aren't we all innately people we live next door to? And isn't that what's both and creepy as hell about that.
Mom, I saw something. Oh, now we're
Old school.
Mom! Dad, I saw something.
Police urge all citizens of the area to keep their doors locked.
Hey, Stephanie, my name is Elizabeth. We're going to try and talk about what happened. It's going to help you feel better. You FBI? Yeah. You going to bust me? For now, no. It's all right, sweetheart. It's just a camera. We're driving along. We stopped at the stretch.
Ooh, nice shot.
We stopped to help.
Oh, shit! Fuck! Okay, officer, it's the flat that's off.
I hate you. I hate you!
Steph just got out of the car.
Girl told us, about the car.
I tried to tell my parents, but the music was too loud.
Tried to tell him what?
I saw something bad. I know what blood looks like.
You can't save her. And then you left the scene with the couple alive and well. Is that your statement?
And having, this project's been, kind of gestating for quite some time, both pre-production and then production and then now finally getting it out. And so having that process, that long process, does, looking at the film even now, as opposed to even 5 years from now, are you still surprised? Do you still find surprises when you see the film?
Surprises? I don't know if I find surprises as much as I find, incredible memories and gifts. Mm-hmm. There's something, there were so many happy accidents in the making of it that, it's almost verbatim exactly what I wrote, but there are nuances that can only come about from being with people as creative as the cast were and crew as creative as they were. And, and there we are in the middle of nowhere in Canada, in a town called Regina. And, the town that rhymes with fun. And you've never heard so many vagina jokes in your life. And it's laughter, and so when I look back on it, I remember not only the story I was trying to tell, but the experiences behind the story. I don't know about surprises, but I'm really proud of the film, and I'm really proud that when I look at it, that I actually had anything to do with it. So I feel pretty lucky about that.
In regards to getting the film off the ground and getting it made and finding the distributor, what did you discover going through that process again on this film versus during your Boxing Helena days? Obviously, I'm sure you knew even going in that the world of financing and distribution and acquisitions had gone through a couple of changes from 93,
yeah.
92 to now. And so what was that like?
It's gone through some changes, but innately it's the same machine. Mm-hmm. And the same way that I have to stop saying in the same way that when you are young and you think of lovers and attackers as monsters because they're foreign, those lovers and attackers become your friends when you're a grown-up. I think that that's what, creating something and selling a film is. And there's a kinship and a bonding and also, an inevitable feud. The business mind is going to hit the creative mind, and sometimes it'll go well and sometimes it won't. And no matter what changes as far as the internet and technology, it is still this process where the businessmen are going to take from someone isn't a business person at all, this creative thing, and they're going to sell it as a product. And that's a strange process. That's never going to be comfortable. But I'm real proud that anybody looked at either of my films and said, I think show this to people, and we'd like to. So I don't know, I think Boxing Helena was interesting to people because of the mess that surrounded it, and because I was related to my father, and there was all that talk and brouhaha. And I hope that Surveillance is interesting because of the film that it is, and because I've gotten older, and I'm not perfect, but I'm different, and that I think that's all we can expect is, as they say, progress, perfection.
And I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you mentioned it, that Boxing Helena, because I remember when that came out, and I was 14, 15, and there was that brouhaha, that cachet of Jennifer Lynch, daughter of David Lynch, makes her directorial debut. And with Surveillance, do you find that seems to have lessened? And how do you feel about that? If it not being kind of the one of the crutches to kind of sell the film.
Well, it's weird because I think it's lessened, but I also think that because my father offered up his name as executive producer in order to get the script read, because it hadn't been paid attention to for a year and a half, and I was either wise or unwise in accepting that I will still be having that comparison made and that relationship discussed. And I will always be my father's daughter, but I will also always be my mother's daughter and my daughter's mother and, my brother's sister. And so it's a less big deal now than it was then. I think because I'm maybe more accustomed to the comparison. But I think, I hope that the work stands on its own, but I don't expect that anyone will ever stop comparing Sofia Coppola to her father, nor do I ever expect anybody to stop comparing me to my father. I mean, I should only aspire to be as great a filmmaker as my father is. I don't want to emulate him, but it would be nice to be as respected as he is. So, I have no problem, sharing a sentence with him, even if it's critical.
And to go back real quick on the changes in the machine, if you will, of getting a film made, and to kind of as a postscript to that, what are your feelings about day and date releases of theatrical DVD on demand?
I think that it's the wave of the future. I'm just not as hip as my 13-year-old daughter is. I think that I haven't grown accustomed to the fact that you can see a movie on your television before it's in the theater. And that doesn't make it wrong. That just makes it the way it is, I also listen to the Eagles a lot more than my daughter ever would. So I think that, I have a lot to learn about how this whole new machine works. I'm not against it, but I'm not used to it.
Right.
So I think that, I hope that people will still go and celebrate what it is to sit in a room with other people in the darkness and have that voyeuristic experience of seeing a movie, because that's really hauntingly beautiful and powerful. But I also think that Surveillance is the kind of movie that people might feel more comfortable watching alone in their homes, because they won't feel so guilty about laughing about the sickeningly funny parts. And, they won't feel so self-conscious maybe about the material they're watching. So maybe that, in the end, is best case scenario for the world and particularly for this film.
Right. Well, before I let you go, I just got to ask about your follow-up film. I believe it's called
Yes.
Hiss.
Yes.
And what stage is that in, and what's that process like, and do you see a light at the end of the tunnel of when we might see it?
I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hoping to show a sneak preview in the Toronto Film Festival, which is September.
Right.
I don't know exactly what the producers are thinking as far as a release date, but I'm in post now. And, it's an amazing feat that Rob Kurtzman helped me create, special effects-wise. And it was 8 months shooting in India, which is a gift I wish on everyone. An incredible country with incredible people, and they make films like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a creature feature, love story, action adventure musical. And if you're interested in seeing the promo, it's on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, so, just look up his trailer on YouTube and you can see it.